I've been reminded recently that healing the ego is more about compassion and patience and self love than it is about kind of finding the rough edges that are undesirable and buffing them out, and kind of using a tenacity rather than patience and compassion. And a funny example, but my little dog Claire, our little tiny poodle, recently, instead of using the bathroom in the pet toilet area, she started going on the carpet nearby. And we tried the usual, like, kind of carrot and stick methods. We'll like give her a little food if she uses the actual bathroom. We'll, tell her no if she uses the other one on the carpet. And nothing was working at it. It just didn't really seem to solve it. And I was starting to notice that Claire was getting a little bit tense, which is rare for her. She can withstand pretty much any amount of no's or don't do that with basically Teflon skin. She doesn't really bother her at all. The only thing that seems to motivate her is food. And I suddenly started noticing her tension and thought, okay, so what I'm doing to try to help is actually making things worse. So what's really happening here? And somehow, rather than being kind of frustrated or wanting to just correct her behavior to something I preferred, I started thinking about it from her perspective and started thinking maybe she's having a difficult time getting over to the place that we wanted to use the restroom. Did anything change recently? Oh, the carpet there got a little bit smaller than it was before. So let's just try putting in a larger piece of carpet there so it's easier for her to walk over there. Even though she's a puppy, she's still, she's small, so she's sensitive to these things. And what do you know? Just changing the carpet, suddenly she's okay. She hasn't had one time where she peed in the other place. And it turns out that she wasn't going there because she had some desire to, or, just wasn't, wanting to go where we wanted. Actually, she was wanting to go in the place that we suggested, but was just having a hard time getting there for reasons I didn't understand. Maybe the smell, maybe the width of the carpet, maybe something. But just changing that simple change, it took 2 minutes, seemed to solve everything. And I mention this because I'm noticing the same thing with myself, with things that I deem as, behaviors that I want to change. And my ego, my material mind, the same skills that made me a great software engineer, attention to detail, kind of obsessive tenacity, and ability to look at many different options, even ones that are impossible or haven't been done or can't be done. For me, they're all options. I just look at all of it, and oftentimes a unique creative solution will pop up. So that same set of skills that made me a great software engineer and great designer make me a bit of a pain in the butt sometimes in relationships and with personal growth. It's just too much attention to detail sometimes gets in the way of being present in the moment and enjoying stuff. And of course, being the self-help junkie that I am, I always feel it when I'm creating disharmony around me, or when I sort of, my buttons get pushed and I get frustrated about something that I'm wanting to resolve, but I can't resolve and immediately, it's going to take more time. And so these are the parts of me that it's easy for me to want to curate them into buckets like helpful and not helpful, or kind and unkind, or even profitable and not profitable, all the different ways that our material mind can bucket things and divide them into good and bad. And what I've found recently is that instead, if I'm able to take a step back from self-improvement and instead lean more into self-acceptance, and just like I do with my dog, instead of trying to fix her behavior that I decided was wrong, somewhat arbitrarily, I might add, that instead just taking that same step back and looking at myself and saying, oh, there's probably a reason that I don't understand yet that's sort of hidden from me, or that I'm not looking at consciously, or sometimes not willing to look at. There's probably some reason there that I'm behaving the way I am. It's not that I'm wanting to create trouble or be a pain in the butt, but that's happening because of something inside of me. And if I just listen a little bit, kind of take a step back, take the judgment away, and just say, oh, I wonder what's going on here. Eventually it'll sort of come to light. So I can do the breath of love, bring myself back into spirit mind, And whatever techniques that I have to just kind of bring myself into that space of patience and love and kindness and insight, and usually something unique comes out, some solution that's somewhere in between, like taking a step toward the behavior that I want, so a little bit of self improvement, but probably a little bit more around self acceptance and love, and just seeing that, oh, we're all human beings. We all have different triggers and preferences and behaviors, and it's not all conscious. We're not all acting consciously all the time, and that's okay. That would probably be tedious to have to act consciously all the time. But for the places where my unconscious behaviors are things that I'm not enjoying or wanting to change, I get a lot of value from maybe going 60% acceptance or 80% acceptance and maybe 20% change. And sometimes just looking at that long arc of change that, oh, a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, I was more apt to have these frustrated behaviors than I am now, or more apt to have whatever it is for you than you have now. And just looking at that long arc of, this is really beautiful, this growth path that we're all on, moving through it, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, just depending on how we're doing in the situation, the year, and everything. And just coming from love. And from that perspective, suddenly there's nothing more that needs to be done. And that love for self oftentimes turns into a little change in behavior that I was seeking. Or it doesn't. It just changes into loving that behavior or seeing it a different way. And the problem goes away either way, because the problem was mostly just something that I was holding in my mind. It was an idea rather than a behavior that was the problem.